Ooh. We're going to get things. Let's try again. All right. There's a couple of questions. People have been saying hi or saying that they're muted. Just so that you know, if you're a spectator today, most of the time you will be muted, so that you won't be able to speak because it gets a little bit noisy when we've got lots of people on the line chatting all the time. So you'll be kept quiet. We'll keep you muted, and then Robert or myself can come and unmute you if we want you to actually say something or have a bit of a discussion. Okay. I'll just...
All right, we're ready to go?
Seems to be recording, so yep. Let's go,
right.
and fingers crossed.
Okay, welcome everyone to our first online lesson for 2012. My name is Robert Jamieson, and I'll be taking your lessons throughout the year on a Thursday evening. Hopefully we're all looking forward to going through some exciting chess games. What I understand from the other coaches is that they're going to be focusing on techniques and technical sort of aspects of chess. What I'm going to be doing is focusing more on practical aspects of playing games and playing in tournaments, and specifically each week I want to hopefully have someone in here with me or maybe online and unmuted, and we'll go through their game just like a real coach will go through your game after a tournament. And I'm going to try and focus on improving your understanding of chess. So today I have with me Lachlan Martin. Hello, Lachlan.
Hi.
You want to tell everyone a bit about yourself to start off with? How old are you?
I'm 12.
Okay, and what school do you go to?
It's College.
And your rating is what?
Should be about 1100 in chess keys and about 900 in Australian trials.
Okay, that's pretty good. And you played in the Australian Junior Championships. How did you go there?
4 out of 9.
That was in the under 14s. Yep, that's not too bad. Okay, so what we're going to start off with is tell me about the opening. Your coach has probably told you that there are 3 things you're trying to do in the opening. Can you tell me what they are? Develop your pieces. Okay, so that's 1. What else?
Make a king safe by castle.
Castle, good. That's 2.
And
anything else that he told you to do? Seize the centre?
Oh, yeah.
Seize the centre. All right, and that's about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's obviously what we teach most of the young kids when they're starting out playing chess. But to get you to the next level, there's a 4th thing I need you guys to start thinking about when you're playing the opening and early middle game, and that's planning. So your opening needs to lead to some sort of middle game plan. And judging through the games I've played through, that's an area of weakness for most of you. So hopefully we can have a look at that today and come up with some ideas. So the first thing, when you logged in today on the left, I had the question about rooks that I hope you've all thought about. So when you start the game, your rooks are these big powerful pieces sitting in the corner of the board doing nothing. Okay? So in the opening, we can all move out our minor pieces and move out a couple of pawns in the middle and castle, but our rooks are still there doing nothing. So, Lachlan, can you think of 3 ideas, or 2 or 1 or whatever you can think of, that could get your rooks into the game later on? What could we do to get the rooks involved?
Well, you could make an open file.
Okay, put a rook on an open file, make an open file, put a rook on it. Yep, all right, that's one. That's a good idea. Anything else?
No.
No? All right. Well, I hope you guys came up with more than 1 answer, because I've got 3 here. So let's have a look here. So the first one, Lachlan said, place your rook on an open file. So the first diagram on the left there, we see the rook on the open file, which is really great because at some stage later in the game, the rook can hoon down there to the 7th rank and start taking all black's pawns, or the 8th rank, or whatever, but he's getting into the game. The second one that Lachlan didn't come up with is a half open file, where there's 1 pawn on the file. So like here, black has a very weak backward pawn on d7 in the second diagram. So if we put our rook on that file, it's attacking that pawn and putting it under pressure. So that'd be a way to get our rook into the game. And the third one, which is probably a bit harder, is we look at our most advanced pawns. Even 2 pawns side by side would be really great. So these are the pawns that we might be moving forward or swapping off. So if we put our rooks behind them, like in that third diagram, they can then either support the pawns moving forward, or we could do a swap off with the C pawn taking the B pawn, and that would create an open file that we could get in. All right. So that's 3 ways we can think of to get our rooks in the game. So let's go back to the earlier window. Hang on. Window coaching. And we'll get our chessboard back again. Right. So our planning very often involves how we can get our rooks in the game in the future. So let's have our first poll with the chessboard position you've been looking at there. And we've asked you to decide what you play for white. So we're choosing between castles, D3 and D4. So Lachlan, you have a think about what you would play if you were white. Okay, now the rest of you guys have hopefully had a look at this. So I'll launch the poll, which I think will take up your screen then, and if you could vote, and we'll see how we go. Cross your fingers. So you should now have a screen saying, which move should white play? Castles, D3 or D4? So I want you guys to start voting. So far, we've got 33%, 38%, it's all over the place.
56% on D4.
D4 is just ahead of castles. Has everyone voted? All right. Well, it's still changing a little bit.
No, that's 5%.
Okay, we're about to close off the poll in 5 seconds, so if you haven't voted, all right, let's close the poll. And let's share the results. So what have we got here? We've got 54% went for D4, 8% for D3, and 38% for castles. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, now we'll hide the results and go back to our board. All right. Now, what I think the correct move is, or Lachlan, which would you choose?
D4.
You're going to go with the majority. Oh, okay, a wise man. D4 is probably the best move. Now, why we choose D4 is, I don't know whether you guys have noticed, but most chess openings are striving to get 2 pawns side by side. So you can think of the openings. So there's the King's Gambit with E4 and F4, Queen's Gambit with D4 and C4, the Sicilian, white has a pawn on E4 and then he plays D4, French defense, black has a pawn on D5, he plays 7. So lots of openings that get 2 pawns side by side. Okay, let me just load another game position. We'll try this one. Okay. So now what we have to work out is why we want these 2 pawns side by side. So Lachlan, can you tell me what would be good about having 2 pawns side by side like that?
If you have 2 pawns that are next to each other, you can control the center.
Yeah, so they're controlling the 4 squares immediately in front of them to some extent. Yep. Yeah. So that's good. Anything else? Not really? Okay. Well, let's look at the options. So here, say black was to take. So he plays E5 takes D4. Now we're taking back with something. Now, would this be good for white or good for black?
Good for white.
Why?
Have the knight out in the middle of the board.
I'm thinking more about the pawns.
Okay.
No. Have a look at the space. White has a pawn on the 4th rank, but black only has a pawn on the 3rd rank. So you can see white has more space to play with.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had 2 pawns side by side. So if he took us, then we gain all that space. So that would be pretty good for us.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say he doesn't take. What we could do is we could put a rook on D1 and then we could swap the pawn. And what's our rook now on? Open file. Okay, so having the 2 pawns side by side has given our rook a chance to get into the game because we can create an open file. All right. But the most important one of all is what happens, let's say he plays knight c6 here. What would happen if we pushed past? So we go up to d5 attacking his knight, and he'd obviously move his knight away. So we've now got a pawn on e4 and a pawn on d5. So we've got a little bit more space. What would our plan be here if we were white, just in general terms?
To develop the pieces, and because black stuff hasn't got any developed pieces.
Yeah, so we're trying to develop our pieces, but think about the pawns. Remember what we've just been talking about with the two pawns side by side? What would white try to do with his pawns?
Try to get another one out.
Which one?
C.
Very good, very good. White would play c4, and his plan would be to try and get this pawn in the fullness of time up to c5, and he would then have the two pawns side by side together again. So the same thing applies. They can either push forward or swap off open fast. Very good. Okay, so that was white's plan. So if you were black instead, what do you reckon black's plan would be?
Not good.
Think about the pawns again. So white's plan was to get the two pawns side by side.
So maybe push the other C pawn.
The C pawn to stop it?
Yeah.
Maybe. Let's think in terms not a stopping plan, but in terms of an attacking plan for black. Think of your pawns again. Very good. Okay. So black's logical plan would be to try and get in F5. So he's got his most advanced pawn, the E5 pawn, and he's putting a pawn side by side there, and it probably castle, so his rook will be on the F file. So that's what he'll be doing. So you guys, if you don't know what to plan, think of your pawns, try and getting two pawns side by side, getting your rook behind it, and then off you go. So that's how we think about finding a plan most of the time. There are, of course, some exceptions, but very good. Okay, let's go back and load our game today. All right. So today we're looking at one of Lachlan's games from the Australian Junior against Kevin Wren. Lachlan was black, and these moves might look familiar to you. Now, Kevin played Bishop b5, the Rye Lopez opening. Do you know much about that? Because most people don't play Bishop c4, I would think.
Yeah.
Have you played against the Rye Lopez much?
Yeah, sometimes I push.
You play d6?
Yes, sometimes. Sometimes I think I'm going to push it out.
Bishop c5? Okay.
Yes,
Right. Do you know what the idea of the Rye Lopez is? Why would he want his bishop on b5 instead of c4, which is obviously going to be a better diagonal attacking f7?
Maybe.
Does he want to take the knight?
Yeah, I want to take the knight to get that pawn.
Okay, so if you were black, would you be worried? Let's say we said go away. So he took us, we took back. Would you be worried by that? Is he winning a pawn?
Yeah.
He can just take? So he's won a free pawn? Or can you get it back? Have a look, his knight's unprotected, his pawn's unprotected. Yeah, okay. You could play queen d4 with a double attack, so you're getting your pawn back.
Yeah.
So you don't really have to worry you're losing the pawn. So would you be comfortable with this?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back. So what we're saying is you're not worried he's going to take your knight.
No.
Okay. So if he's not going to take the knight, why is he gone there? What's the idea? Any thoughts?
Not
Not really?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the Rye Lopez, what his idea is he's putting pressure against your e5 pawn. Maybe not immediately, but maybe later. So the knight on c6 is defending the e5 pawn. So if he at some stage can take it, he'll have your pawn under pressure. So for instance, if at some stage in a few moves he was to play d4, like we did in the example before, he'd have a lot of pressure on your pawn. You might be forced to capture, and then you've given him the space. We talked about he'd have a pawn on the fourth, he'd only have one on the third. So the right up is putting pressure. So the move you chose was d6. Good move, bad move, average move? What do you think?
Probably not the best move.
Probably, why wouldn't it be the best move? What's wrong with it?
I'm blocking out the...
You're protecting your pawn though and letting your other bishop out and stuff.
Maybe I could have developed something.
Okay, it's a fair move. The most popular move is the move we did before, which was a6. So the idea is, so if we're not worried about him taking the knight, then he has to move his bishop. So if he moves back to c4, we've just sort of gained a free move with pawn to a6. And if he moves to a4, then we've got his bishop on a less good diagonal. We've gained an extra little move with a6, which is probably a good move. And if we want, we can hit him with b5. So probably next time we play, just chuck in a6 first and see how you go. But in this game, you went for d6. Okay. He played knight. You played knight f6. Now, hopefully this position is familiar to everyone because this is what we did the poll on. And 54% wanted to play d4, plus Lachlan. Only 8% wanted to play d3, and 38% wanted to play castle. Now, he actually played d3. So, you think that's a bad move? Explain that to me.
Well, I don't really think it's needed to...
It's letting the bishop out,
Yeah,
defending my e4 pawn. Isn't that good?
Yeah, I can push him to d4 better because it's putting the 2 pawns next to each other.
Yeah. So this guy White, he knows how to develop his pieces and how to castle and stuff, but he's not really laying the foundations of a plan for when he's done that.
Yeah.
So d3 is a little bit of a boo-boo. All right. So now you plotted on. Now you told him to go away or take me. Why did you choose that?
Just thought if he went back to there, I could have cut him off.
But what if he takes you? We're not worried about that from before?
Not really.
So perhaps a6 is sort of like a lost move if he takes you anyway. Like pins are very hard. You never know whether to break them or not because you have to work out whether a6 is a waste of time or is a good move against you an extra move if he runs away and hides. So I probably would have done bishop e7 for preference, but I mean a6 is all right. I think the computer wants to do a6, so he took you took back. He just jumped in with castles. Now you want a castle too, so you played bishop e7. Now, so he's a little bit ahead in development. Right, if you were him, what would you play here? What should White do?
Maybe get the knight onto this side of the board a bit more.
So you want to play knight e2?
Yeah.
So where's that knight going?
And to knight g3.
Why does your knight want to go to g3?
Get into the game a bit more. It's not really. Well.
So you're going to try and attack him on the king side if you were White?
Yeah.
Why is that? Have you got an advantage over there?
Well, he hasn't castled yet, so...
But the next move, Black's probably going to castle, perhaps?
Yeah.
So, moving the knight to e2, that's moving a piece twice in the opening, and you haven't finished your development yet. Is that naughty, or is that okay, or...?
Yeah.
It's a bit naughty, isn't it? Moving it twice when you've got, like, this bishop hasn't moved anywhere?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Well, what you've done is you've picked the move he actually played. He played knight e2. Now, that's not the greatest move in history. What he should play is d4. So he's got the 2 pawns side by side, and he's got a bit of play in the centre and stuff. But obviously he wouldn't play d4 because he's played d3, so it'd be a huge loss of face, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be embarrassed. He just wasted a whole move for no reason. So he's gone knight e2. So that's good for us. He's not playing the best move. All right, let's have another little poll here. I want you to think what you would play for black. I'll give you a choice of 4 moves. You can play castles kingside. You could play h6. You could play bishop e6 or bishop g4. I'll say them again. Castles kingside, h6, bishop e6, bishop g4. So just have a think about which one of those 4 you'd like. I'll give you another 10 seconds and then we'll launch the poll and see how we go. Castles, h6, bishop e6, bishop g4. Lachlan's thinking hard as well. You might remember what he played, but he might want to change his mind and play something different. All right, let's launch the poll. Okay, so everyone start voting. Bishop g4 is winning so far. Castle's making a comeback. Bishop g4 is still just ahead. It's getting exciting. No one's gone for h6. Only 63% have voted. We still need 37% of people to vote. 75% of people have now voted, and bishop g4 is still in the lead. Come on. Surely someone's going to vote for h6. There's a couple of people have voted. 88% voted. A couple more people we need to vote. 94%. There's probably one person hasn't voted, maybe 2. Okay, better be quick or we'll close the poll. All right, we'll close the poll and have a look. So, what have we got here?
47%.
47% want bishop g4. Then comes castles, then comes bishop e6, and h6 is bringing up the rear. Okay. Now, Lachlan, guess what move you played?
Bishop g4.
Bishop g4. The popular move. Okay, so you explain to all those other silly people out there who didn't play bishop d4 why this is such a ripper move.
Well, I played bishop g4 because the knight's in front of the queen, so if he doesn't get it out of the way, and he'll have to move it for a 3rd time,
You'll have a pin.
Yeah, I'll have a pin, and he will have his king side open with it.
So what, were you threatening to take his knight? Is that your idea? You want to take his knight?
Just have to wait and see what he plays next.
All right, so you haven't decided. If it was your move here, would you take his knight? Or unsure?
Like castle first.
Castle first, then maybe take his knight later.
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you expect him to reply to bishop g4?
Maybe
You think knight g3 was he going to play perhaps?
yeah, maybe.
All right. Pins are very hard things to work out. Now when you do a pin, what you have to say is, am I going to take that knight? Is that a threat? If you're not threatening to take the knight, why bother pinning if he can break the pin? So if he can put the question to the bishop with h3, and you don't want to take the knight, then you're going to have to go back again. So you've lost the move. So the question is the move h3 you've given him a good extra move for him, in which case your bishop up is silly, or is it sort of weakening his king or something like that, and which case it's good for you?
Weakening his king.
Okay.
If he brings up h3, I can take his knight, and then he'll
have double pawns, all that sort of stuff.
get double pawns and an open king.
All right. Well, I'd have to say that I wouldn't play bishop g4. I think that's the worst of the 4 moves, because I don't want to give up my lovely bishop for his knight, and I think he's going to chase me away and I'm going to waste time. I would have played castles. Now, the reason for that also let's go back. I always ask myself, where do I want my pieces? So like if I want to develop my bishop, I say, do I want to put it on G4 or E6 or D7? You know, what's the best square? All right. Now I could castle, or I could develop my bishop. Have you heard of a concept called preserving your options? No? All right. So let's say you've got two good moves. You could develop the bishop, or you could castle. All right. You know you're going to castle. Your king's not going anywhere else. It's definitely castle and kingside, isn't it? Cool. All right. Do we know for certain which is the best square for the bishop?
No.
No. We might want to put on E6. We might want to put on G4. We might even want to put on B7. So we don't know. So if we castle, we've still got all the options with our bishop. We can put it wherever we like. Whereas if we move the bishop now, we've lost our options. We've put it on one square and that's it. See? So it will be better to have played castles. All right? Hope you guys understand that. So he didn't want to get his pawns doubled, so he went knight G3. And Lachlan then castled. That was fine. And now the problem is, he said go away. So let's have another quick poll. He's attacking our bishop. So what would you do as black? Would you take the knight, or would you waste time and retreat like bishop E6? So the options are take the knight on F3 or move the bishop back. Okay, I've launched the poll, so we want everyone to vote. Are we taking or are we retreating?
I reckon bishop E6 because it's going to be attacking two diagonals.
Okay, we've got 63% voted. So far bishop E6 is just in the lead, but bishop F3 is coming back. 69% voted. And we've got 88%. We've got a couple of people still to vote. Come on. Bishop E6 is looking pretty good. We've got two more people maybe to vote.
One person can't actually vote because we got
94%. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, so let's close the poll and let's have a look at the results. So
2/3.
So 2/3 went back and 1/3 took. Okay. All right. And in the game, Lachlan went back. Well done, Lachlan. Good move. Okay. Now, for those of you who wanted to take, there's probably two reasons maybe why we don't want to take. So one thing we have to do is firstly decide. So we're giving up a bishop for a knight. So in theory it's 3 against 3, but in the position the bishop might be better or the knight might be better. So we have to say which is the better piece. Now you've got your pawns, Lachlan, in the centre on black squares. You've got E5, D6, C7, mainly on the black squares. So that means you're going to be weak on the white squares. So you want to keep your white square bishop, yes?
Yeah.
Cool. So if you swap, you're giving up your good bishop for just an average horse. And also, what would be the other drawback, Lachlan? Can you see a drawback of taking? What's his reply going to be?
Queen take.
So is that good for him?
Yeah.
He's recapturing with a developing move.
Yeah.
He's getting his queen out, whereas before he didn't have his queen out. So we're wasting a bit of time there. So for all you guys who wanted to swap, next time have a big think about it. And perhaps if your bishop is better, keep your bishop. So we go back to E6. Okay, now he decides to play B3. I don't really understand that, but never mind. What do we do here? We'll play C5. That's probably a good move. Why did you play that move?
To stop if the bishop is to come out the way, but you just open up the pawn. It can only go to 2 squares, which would be A3 and C4.
But at the moment you've stopped him playing D4, so he can't get the 2 pawns side by side, and you've gained a bit of space. So that was a good move. I like that. Okay. Then he went C4.
It's bad because now the D pawn is now a backward pawn.
Ah, is it bad? So all backward pawns are always bad. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, it's funny.
Why?
Because if you move it up,
Well, you can't move it up because he's going to zap it. Yep. But you couldn't move it up anyway, whether it was backward or not.
Yeah. You could.
So all backward pawns are bad. Not all. Okay. Well, backward pawns are generally bad if they're on an open file or a half-open file in this case. So if black didn't have that pawn on d6, for instance, he could double up his rooks like we talked about before, attacking a weak backward pawn. But if that file's not going to be open and he can't really attack your pawn, it's not so bad. I mean, c4 gives him a bit more control in the centre. It's a funny move, but never mind. All right, now, critical point here. Black to play, and I'll give you a choice of 3 moves to choose from. We'll have another poll. So if you were black, would you want to play h6? Would you want to play rook e8? Or would you want to play queen d7? So they're obviously trying to complete his development. So he's got h6 to control that g5 square, queen d7 to clear the back rank, or rook e8 to get his rook into it a bit. All right, I'll give you 10 seconds to look at the position, see what you think, and then we'll launch the poll. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here we go. All right, everyone vote. We've got h6, rook e8, queen d7. Oh, it's pretty close. Queen d7 has just hit the lead narrowly, but only 50% have voted. Queen d7 is still out in front, with the other two looking pretty even. 67% voted, 72%. Come on, we've got another half.
No one wanted to put a rook in the half.
We shall wait and see. 78%. Come on, we need a few more people to vote. 83%.
One more people?
Come on, there's someone out there who's not voting.
Maybe it's us.
Could be us. All right, they obviously can't make up their mind. So I'll close the poll. And what have we got? Most people want queen d7, and a few want h6 and rook e8. Okay, now, guess what move Lachlan played here? Can you remember?
No.
Played rook e8. Okay, so explain to all those silly people who wanted to play queen d7 why rook e8 is such a fabulous move.
Well, I guess it's kind of got the file, got no other, when it moves the bishops out, it's almost got an open file. It's got the 2 pawns there.
So if those 2 bishops and those other 2 pawns somehow miraculously disappeared off the board to be an open file, that's what you're telling me?
Yeah.
Isn't it the most closed file on the whole board?
Yes.
Yeah. So is that a good spot for the rook? Is that where you want your rook?
I don't know if I can have it.
Or you could leave it there and move something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So this was probably a bit of a boo-boo. So given what we talked about at the start about where we want our rooks, and remember, black's plan was often to get 2 pawns side by side. So in this position, let's just go back. Which 2 pawns would you want to get side by side? In theory.
C and D, maybe.
But the D one's stuck there. It's not going anywhere because the white's got D5 covered. So his most advanced pawn is the pawn on E5. So which pawn would he want to put?
Maybe the F.
He'd want to put the F pawn. So if he could get his pawn to F5 and your rook's already behind it, that'd be cool. So all you could do is your plan would be maybe to move the knight at some stage and play F5 or build up to that. So in that case, you want your rook on F8, not E8.
So would you move your knight to E8?
I'd move my knight somewhere, but not necessarily now. See, we're completing our development. So the guys who voted, they want to play queen d7, which is a developing move. Were it me, I'd be worried he might reply knight g5. So queen d7, knight g5, and he can snaffle our good bishop there, which I'm not too happy about. So were it me, I would probably go for the h6 first. So I'd play h6. Then my plan, I'd be playing queen d7. Then I'm saying, okay, I'm developed. All my pieces are alrighty. Then I've got to think of a plan. So we said one plan could be to move the knight and play f5. Would there be another plan you could think of, thinking about your rooks in particular? We've got any half-open files or open files that they could do stuff on?
Rook b8.
Which rook? Because remember the queen's on d7 now.
So rook a b8.
Rook A. Not the other one?
So if you had rook f b8.
Right. And what would you do then? We're just bumping into this pawn down here. It's not going anywhere. Pawn on b3. What would be your plan?
To bring...
Push your A pawn. That's right. Very good. So if you have a rook on A8 and the other one on B8, and then you push your A pawn up to A4, you're threatening to swap off and get an open file or a half-open file. Maybe you can double rooks on one of them. So see how you've worked out a plan by looking where the half-open files are. That's one option. Or option 2, going for the F5 thing. All right. So that's good. We're making progress. But what we actually played was rook d8. Okay. Then he played knight up. He's after our bishop, I think. So we defended it. All right. Now let's put our thinking cap on for white. So we'll have another quick poll. I'll give you a choice of 4 moves for white. So white could play bishop b2, so he's developing the bishop. He could play f4. He could play knight takes e6 to get rid of that nasty bishop, or he could play queen f3 to get his queen into the attack on the king side. So those 4 moves again: bishop b2, knight takes d6, f4, queen f3. So I'll give you guys 10 seconds to think about it. We'll launch the poll. Here we go. Bishop b2, f4, knight e6, queen f3.
It's quite even so far. Oh.
No one's gone bishop b2, or knight e6 has hit the lead. Knight e6 is bolted, but we've only got half the votes in. The others can still catch up. 72% have voted. Come on, guys. We want going for 100% vote here. We're up to 83, 89.
Someone can't vote.
We've made it to 94. Someone's not 94. We never get past 94.
If someone...
All right.
Say something if you can't vote.
No, we'll close the poll. Let's have a look at the results. The results are now in. Wow, everyone wants to take. Knight takes e6.
Not even wants bishop b2.
No one wants bishop b2, and f4 is coming second last. Right, okay. So, tell them, Lockie, what would you do if you were? What's the killer move? Are you going to take that bishop or do something different? Or you hadn't decided?
I think I'd probably take.
Take, okay. This is a problem with lots of juniors, is that they often just take because they can. All right? Something to do. But if you take, your opponent's move is sort of forced, they're going to take you back. So whether they're a hopeless player or a grandmaster, they're still going to play the same move. Whereas if you make a non-taking move, they've got to come up with their own idea. So if they're a weaker player, they're more likely to come up with a bad move. And in this position, is the bishop going anywhere?
No.
No. So you can take it whenever you feel like it.
Yes. What about f4?
And you can probably wait till he plays h6 to force you to take it, and then he's wasted a move, h6. See, so don't always just swap because you can. So, now we've been talking all day about getting 2 pawns abreast. So what would be the best move for white?
f4.
f4. So those 12% of you who said f4, well done. You're getting the hang of what I'm talking about. Okay. But he actually played a not so good move, queen f3. I don't quite understand, but never mind. So Lachlan said, go away to the knight. So you sort of forced him to do the move he probably wants to do anyway.
Had to take.
Yeah. Yeah, but whether this is a weakening move. You see, if he's taking here, you've lost your white squared bishop, and h6 weakens this white square on g6 as well. So I might well have done something different. Maybe I dropped my bishop back to f8 or something solid like that. Anyway, so he now has to take it. We took back with the queen. Taking back with the pawn was so-so, but see how now your pawns are all on dark squares and you've got this terrible bishop, whereas your lovely white one's gone. So you should try and hang on to the bishop that's the opposite colour to your pawns. And what's worse, white has a really good strong square now. You know about strong squares?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what strong square white's got?
F5?
Yep. He can jump that knight into f5. Look at that. And how are we going to get rid of it? We can't chase it away with g6 because our h-pawn's gone.
Yeah.
So he's dominating in the white squares because our bishop's gone. So we went up to h7, king h7, and then he went in for the one move checkmate threat. You want the good news? You saw it. So you covered it with rook g8, and then he did a very tricky move, queen h4.
Not sack.
So he's threatening to sack on h6 because he's got a knight, a bishop, and a queen on us. And if you keep taking, you end up in checkmate. So what do you think you should do here?
Well, I think I played f5, didn't I?
I'm thinking, what if you had your time again, what would be the best move, do you think? He's attacking your h-pawn. Can you defend it again?
Knight. Oh, I can't remember that.
No, you can't move your knight because the queen and the knight are on the bishop. But you can defend your pawn another way. Bishop f8 would have defended it. But you missed that and you went back king h8. Now, people, what would you play as white here? Because white has a really good tactic.
Um,
Do you remember? Can you see it, Lachlan? But if you were white, what would you do?
Knight or bishop takes.
Which one?
Bishop takes. That's it.
Very good. Bishop takes h6. So what would happen now? He would have to take. Queen would take. It's nearly checkmate, but he can drop the knight back. And now white can swap off the queens and pick up that bishop on e7. So white's got 3, 6, 8 pawns to 6 pawns. So white's 2 pawns ahead. So that would have been cool. But fortunately for you, he missed it. So that's another reason to examine all checks and captures, because that was an obvious capture. Instead, he went in for the g4 attack.
Stop blocking out with g5.
No, you didn't block him out with the g5. You did. I think you did a very strange move. Remember?
No.
You said, would you like a free knight?
Yeah.
Remember why you played that?
I was stressing out.
You were stressing out because he was attacking you and you're under pressure and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very hard to defend. What you could have done is you could have played bishop. Whoops, hang on. I'm going too far. Whoops, oh, hang on. Apologies, I'm pressing the wrong button here. King h8, g4, and you could have played bishop d8. See, so then you'd be threatening to move your knight with a discovered attack on his queen. So the kamikaze doesn't work. So there was a way out, but unfortunately we gave him our horse. So that's the main reason you lost the game, but you lost it because you're under pressure.
Yeah.
So then you put your king back up again, and he moved the pawn, and then you went in for g5. Is that a good move or a bad move? Let's go back. What do you think? G5?
Well, I guess I'm not sure if it was a good move or not. I just thought.
You want to try and get some sort of attack going?
Yeah. It's kind of like he has to move his pawn out of the
Yeah,
way.
it's understandable. You could have played bishop f6 and sort of hung on, but you're still a piece down. Anyway, g5, so you're trying to get that file open with the rook and queen and king all together.
Yeah.
If you were white, what would you play here? You played king h2. Would you do that or something different?
Maybe pawn take.
No, what you could do is you could play h5.
Yeah.
See that? And that just totally stymies all your attack.
We might kind of block the pawn there.
Yeah. But here's a piece for a pawn up. So he's dominating the white squares. You've got no attack. So it's going to be totally safe for him. He'll just play around, open a file on the queen side, beat you with his extra piece. No danger, no problems. So he missed that chance. Instead he moved king h2. And then we had a bit of a swap off. We've got our bishop to g5 because he's still attacking with the queen and the knight and the bishop. White played f4. We had another swap off. So we're still being crushed by this horrid knight on f5, a really dominating square. We're trying to get our rook in with rook g5, so it was okay. All right, what should black do here, do you reckon?
Double the rooks.
Double the rooks. Why should he double the rooks?
To kind of attack.
It's sort of attacking, but also at the moment you're playing a rook down. It's just sitting over there doing nothing. Yeah. So rook g8 would have been the best move. You played queen f6, trying to be sneaky, attacking his rook on a1. But he saw it, came to g1. Now we doubled the rooks. Then we had a bit of a swap off. And here's a piece up, so he's trying to swap everything off. And then we made a little boo-boo, didn't we?
Could I have checked in this position?
Well, he's not really threatening anything other than to swap everything off and beat you because he's a knight for pawn up. But you thought you had a tactical chance, but it just dropped his change, unfortunately. And then we gave him a couple of spike checks, and he went there threatening swap off queens and mates and everything. And he resigned. Dear oh dear. But an interesting game because we learned from our losses.
Yeah, I can only go back in this book.
Yeah. So you might as well resign. You rook down. All right. But let's have a think back about the game. So what can we have learnt from that game?
Get 2 pawns next to each other.
Yeah. So if we want to plan, we get 2 pawns side by side. Try and get our most advanced pawn probably and put the pawn beside it, like where we had the example of the pawn on d5 and you said put the pawn on c5 next to it. That was cool. All right. What else about, say, rooks? You played that horrible rook e8 move.
Yeah.
So where should we put our rooks?
Open file.
Yep. Half open file or
behind the pawn.
Behind our super advanced pawns that we're going to push.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So that's how you get your rooks into the game. All right. That was excellent. And we've now pretty well reached our finish time for today. So thank you very much for coming in, Lachlan, and showing us your game. I'm not sure who we're getting in next week. I will contact one of you before next week and keep in on the game and organise someone to come in. We may even do it online for someone who's interstate or in Mildura or somewhere. And,
yeah, Robert. So if
yeah.
I'll just tell the audience that if anybody would like to be the subject of the lesson next week, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call or something like that, and we can either get you to come in here to North Road in Ormond, which would be the preference, and you can be the subject of the lesson and get ripped apart like you did today, which is good for you.
You survived all right, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just survived. The other thing, David, I want to mention is that obviously I need your games to go through. So if you want to come in and have a private lesson here, you need to send me one of your good games, or probably better than that, send me one of your bad games, because you learn from your losses or your draws and stuff. No, I picked this off the internet. So those guys of you who have played like in the Australian Junior, I've got some of your games, that's fine. For those of you who haven't been playing in Finland's recently and keeping a record of your game, go on to Chess Kids Online, play on there, play a slow game, 15 or 20 minutes, and you can send that to me if you've got a good one. So please play as much as you can and keep your eye out for those interesting games we can go through and learn from. All right, anything else to say, David?
No.
For today?
Thank you, Robert, for the time tonight. We'll see you next week. And same for everyone else. Thank you for coming along. You guys can start logging out. I'll hang around here for another 5 minutes or so, Robert, with these guys. If anyone's got any questions for me, they can ask me some questions over the next 5 minutes.